Hello and welcome. My name is Xander. I will be your instructor through this tutorial. Now, this tutorial is actually part of a whole course which you can access the first stages for free here on YouTube. Now, in this tutorial, I might mention resources and other tutorials. Do check out the link in the video description, which will take you to the playlist, and also there will be a link to the resources so that you can access and follow along here on YouTube. Now, if you like this course, you found it useful, and you want to take that next step, you can find this course over at Udemy. All the links to the resources can be found in the video description. Now, don't forget, also subscribe to the channel for weekly promotions, discounts, and free course giveaways. If you've watched the previous tutorials, creating foreign key relationships, many-to-many relationships, this should be fairly straightforward. So, in addition to one-to-many or foreign key relationships and many-to-many relationships within a database, you may also have to create a one-to-one relationship between two tables. So a one-to-one relationship occurs when one record in a table is linked to only one record in another table. This is implemented using a foreign key with a unique constraint or a shared primary key. Right, so if we take a look at the ERD, we do have a one-to-one relationship between products and stock management. So for one product, there will be one stock management entry, and for one stock management entry, it should be related to only one product. So we have a one-to-one relationship. What's important here, like I mentioned, is that we implement the foreign key with the unique constraint, because we don't want a scenario where in the stock management table, we have references to multiple products. Remember, one record in the stock management table should only be related to one product. And as we're using the foreign key here in the stock management side, we need to make sure that that foreign key is going to be unique throughout the whole table. So how do we know which side should have the foreign key in this one-to-one relationship? In a foreign key relationship, the one or the many side would then be assigned the foreign key, but in a one-to-one, potentially you can assign the foreign key on either side. Now, typically, we would need to determine the relationship between the table to determine potentially which side is the dependent side. So products, for example, is a table. That data in that table can exist without any other table-related data. So we can build a product name, slugs, description, and so on, and that data exists on its own. It doesn't rely on any other data. However, the stock management data does. So the quantity here, the quantity of product that we have in stock, for example, that field relates to products. On its own, it means absolutely nothing at all. It's just a number, quantity. So it's dependent upon the product. So typically, I look for, when building a one-to-one relationship, I look for the side which is dependent on the other side. In this case, the stock management side seems to be that side that is dependent upon the product data. So therefore, I've included the foreign key in this table. Right, so what we're going to need to do here is create a foreign key in the stock management table, assign that constraint to that field as a foreign key, and then make sure that will then be unique. So the first task is to make sure the column exists. Now notice here that we use alter table, like we have done previously, but we add a column with if not exists. If not exists is useful in DDL, data definition language operations, to prevent errors when modifying a table. It ensures that column, constraint, or table is only added if it doesn't already exist. This can be really useful to ensure that everything is in place before you then perform your main operations on the database. Now, what we have stumbled on is that, well, as we already know, SQL is a standard language for interacting with relational databases like PostgreSQL, MySQL, and SQL Server. But in actual fact, it includes different types of commands which we can group into categories. So we have DDL, which defines database structure SQL code. We have data manipulation language, which modifies data, DCL, data control language, which manages permissions, and then TCL, so transactional or transaction control language, which controls transactions. So each sublanguage is designed for specific tasks, and knowing the difference helps you use the right tools for the job. Right, so back to the code then. Let's go ahead and alter our stock management table. Okay, so column already exists. So we don't need to create the new foreign key column in our stock management table. It already exists. So let's now make sure that it's set to not null. So maybe a good time to inspect it. So this is going to be stock management table. So we've just ensured that we have the foreign key field. We've just set to not null. So that's currently where we are in this process. Now we need to add the foreign key constraint. So we're going to add the constraint name, ensure that the product ID field we've just created in the stock management table is going to be a foreign key. It references the product ID, and we're going to set on delete to cascade. Right, so let's do that. Okay, so product doesn't exist because it should be products. Apologies. Let's run that again. Okay, so relation product doesn't exist. Okay. Let's try that one more time because I think maybe I didn't paste it incorrectly. And there we go. Right. So we've now created the foreign key. So let's just double check that. So we have the foreign key constraint. We have the on delete cascade set. So in this scenario, if we delete a product, then there's no need for the stock management record potentially in this case, in this scenario. So we also want to cascade. So when we delete the parent record, we delete any other associated record, which there only should be one of in the stock management table. Now, in actual fact, at this moment in time, we do have a one-to-many relationship between stock management and product because we haven't enforced the fact that the foreign key should be unique in the stock management table. If it weren't unique, it means that we can add multiple records in the stock management table related to individual products. And we don't want that. We want a scenario where we have one product record connected to one stock management record. So we're going to add a constraint which is going to make the foreign key unique, ensuring that we can only have one record in the stock management table related to the product ID of a product. So go ahead and alter the table, add the constraint, unique, and there we go. So that should then complete that one-to-one relationship over to the product table. So we have the foreign key set to not null. We have the foreign key constraint set on delete cascade, and it is now unique. So there we have an example of creating a one-to-one relationship between two tables. Remember, a one-to-one relationship in a database occurs when one record in a table is associated to only one record in another table. We've learned to apply or create a foreign key, assign it an on-delete behavior, and in order to create that one-to-one relationship, we need to set the foreign key to unique.